So imagine walking up to a stunning beachfront house for a dinner party, and instead of finding a front door, you just find yourself wandering around this massive six-car garage lobby. Like, totally lost, right? Just feet from the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a complete stress dream. But it was actually the reality of 266 Centennial Parkway. It's in Delta, British Columbia, and it's this very famous piece of architecture that we're diving into today.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We're looking at a fascinating architectural and real estate study that tracks how this, well, basically a secretive 1990s beachfront fortress was transformed into a modern marvel. And it's a perfect lens for understanding high-end real estate quirks, extreme engineering, and oddly enough, the Hollywood film industry.
It really is, and I think we should probably start with the building itself, right? So the original 1990 design was by Canadian architect Daniel Evan White. And while it had these panoramic views of the Salish Sea in the back from the street, I mean, it was essentially a bunker.
Oh, a totally defensive, closed-off facade. You know, looking at the sources, it seems like late 20th century modernism really prioritized absolute inward-facing privacy. But then you jump to 2020, and Frits de Vries architects took on this extensive restoration.
Right, which is rare. I mean, in high-value waterfront markets, the instinct is usually to just bulldoze the whole thing and start over.
Yeah, just scrap it. But instead, they used what's called adaptive conservation. It's like unclenching a tight fist into an open hand, welcoming the neighborhood while keeping the soul of the place intact.
I love that analogy. So rather than treating the original house like a fortress, with the drawbridge pulled up,
Yeah.
they essentially knocked out the courtyard wall so the inside just spills out into the landscape.
And they finally made a custom front door that's actually visible from the street, which definitely helps with the dinner party situation.
Definitely. But they also carved out the roof to add this massive 30 by 9 foot floating skylight.
Wow, 30 feet. That skylight physically alters the structural feel of the space, doesn't it? By detaching the roofline visually, it just floods that once secretive interior with natural light.
It really does. It makes all that heavy geometry feel like it's hovering. Plus, they found the mathematical center of the home's original blueprints and planted a large Japanese maple exactly on that node. It gives the whole layout this living anchor.
Oh, and they replaced the 1980s pink concrete floors with sleek polished epoxy, which I think we can all agree was a highly necessary intervention.
Oh, absolutely necessary, no question.
But wait, here's something I don't quite understand from the architectural records. The blueprints say this home is 7,417 square feet. But the municipal tax files say it's only 5,437. Hold on, you can't just lose 2,000 square feet.
That sounds crazy, right?
That's the size of an entire second house. How does the city legally just ignore that much space on a tax bill?
Well, it comes down to how municipalities actually define finished floor area. Those missing feet are what architects call unmeasured or interstitial spaces.
Okay, like what?
So think of that massive garage lobby we mentioned earlier, or these double-height voids, or giant covered outdoor decks. They heavily shape your experience of the house. But because they aren't enclosed, conditioned living spaces, they just aren't classified as taxable.
So you get this incredibly luxurious physical asset that officially doesn't exist on paper.
Exactly. And the reason those exterior interstitial spaces are so massive in this specific house is because interacting with the ground in Boundary Bay is incredibly difficult.
Because of the deltaic soils, right? The sources mentioned they're prone to liquefaction during seismic events.
Yeah, which is a major engineering hurdle.
Meaning what, exactly? Like the ground literally turns to soup.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
During an earthquake, the shaking turns the water-saturated sandy soil into this jelly-like liquid. So if you just pour a normal concrete basement, the house will sink. Or tilt. Plus, there are highly sensitive archaeological layers just below the surface that you absolutely cannot disturb.
So how do you actually build a house on archaeological jelly?
You use what's called a raft slab. Instead of digging deep pillars, you pour a thick, heavily reinforced concrete foundation that just sits on top of the ground. It literally acts like a raft, allowing the entire house to safely float on top of the shifting soil during a tremor.
It's so ironic because the exact same flat, sandy geography that makes the soil so unstable and difficult to build on is exactly what draws Hollywood location scouts to the area.
Oh, for sure. This same fragile coastline is constantly used by international film crews for huge projects like Deadpool and The X-Files.
Location scouts must love it because that wide sandy expanse and low horizon create this uninterrupted cinematic backdrop with incredible natural light.
They do. But hosting massive film productions on a delicate ecosystem, especially right on the Pacific Flyway for migratory birds, it forces the city of Delta to enforce incredibly strict preservation rules.
Yeah, the rules are wild. Like, to protect the local agricultural balance, active farming equipment literally has the right-of-way over Hollywood production crews.
Yeah, can you imagine?
A multi-million-dollar shoot just has to pause and wait for a local tractor to roll through the shot.
It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And if they want to shoot aerials, productions are required to hold massive $2 million drone insurance policies, specifically to protect the local nesting bird populations.
So the city welcomes the media revenue, but the natural character of the environment always dictates the terms. That makes sense.
Always. It's a really delicate balance.
Well, the big takeaway for you today is how adaptive conservation proves you don't need to demolish the past to build a sustainable, ultra-valuable future, even on incredibly challenging ground.
Yeah, and it also forces us to rethink how we measure the value of a space, moving beyond just the official taxable square footage.
Right, so think about your own living space. What unmeasured areas, maybe it's a porch, a patio, or just a weird little breezeway, actually shape your daily experience the most, even if they aren't on the official floor plan. Something to ponder the next time you walk through your own front door. Assuming you can find it. This video was made with Elu Studio, developed by us. Check the link in the description box to buy it.